Hello and welcome to episode 271 of the Clean Energy Show. I'm Brian Stockton.
I'm James Whittingham.
This week, the UN Secretary General has declared that the sun is rising on a clean energy age. Sure, the sun is currently hidden by wildfire smoke, but we get the gist.
Starting next summer, the major downtown areas of Hanoi, Vietnam will ban all gasoline-powered motorcycles as part of a program to cut down on emissions. No word on whether the Vietnamese government will ban weasel poop coffee, because that's a thing in Vietnam, Brian. It's a thing.
Oh, I love a good weasel poop coffee. A new stand-up electric scooter will be able to go 100 miles per hour, said a spokesperson for the company.
All that and more in this edition of the Clean Energy Show.
Yes. Sad press statement from that scooter company, but we'll get to that later.
I think we're going to have warn our listeners that some of our shows may be a little bit shorter. If you're counting on us for your 45-minute, 50-minute commute, we may let you down a little bit over the next month as vacation and summer, I don't know what, summer slowdown, summer.
Yeah, it's harder to talk in the summer. It's a well-known fact.
Especially with the smoke. God.
Yes.
Last night, as I was going to bed and falling asleep and just drifting off, my phone alarm goes off. There's a smoke warning, an air quality warning. And my fan turns off just almost exactly when that warning came.
Yep.
Because I had set up an Alexa routine based on the indoor air quality. I check my outdoor air quality and I can see it going downhill. And in the middle of the night, it was at 245 on the U.S. index. By the way, I said last week that I made a mistake about what it goes up to the U.S. area. It's 500. And I think we were 446 during the photo op for the Clean Energy Show Recognition Award that we received in June. And that was the worst. The middle left a mark on me. I'm never going to forget that experience. It was just bad. Yeah. You were out of town. But yeah, we've sent smoke all over the world, all the way to Switzerland and God knows how far.
It's brutal, and my partner and I like to go for a walk every morning. Of course, we look forward to the summer because, we can walk outdoors. But of course, this is not really the case anymore. So this morning, and to be fair, we do not get the smoke every single day, but we have to check the index when we get up in the morning. And so, all through the winter, we have an indoor walking routine. There's places you can walk indoors, like the shopping mall or the field house, the city field house, or the university, things like that. But now in the summer, like about once every 4 or 5 days, we have to switch to an indoor walk because of the air quality. And that's what we did this morning. And it's just so sad.
Where did you walk?
Around the university. It's a good walking route. And of course, indoor air is not perfect either when it's like this. And it's going to depend on the building. It depends on how much air they're bringing in, how airtight the buildings are. So it seemed fine, but when the smoke is really, really bad outdoors, then your indoor air is not going to be super great either. But it's once every 4 or 5 days, we have to switch to an indoor walk. And, sometimes it's 2 or 3 days in a row, and then we'll be able to go for a week or more walking outdoors again.
Was there anyone else walking in the university that you could tell were walking for indoor walks?
No, there are regulars, but usually, we only see the regulars in the winter. So I think the other people have not necessarily switched up their routines yet, but because I'm adamant about not breathing that smoke if I don't have to. But I think eventually, other people are going to follow suit and we're going to see more summer indoor walkers.
Well, I was just looking at my live indoor air quality from the Amazon Alexa air quality monitor that I got, and it says 52 out of 100. It's a poor score right now. Indoors.
Yeah, indoors.
And I just had a shower, so there's some VOCs from my shampoo, and that's at 37, which is pretty high, because I don't know what else it would be. But the other night, I'd set up through my Alexa smart home system routines where if this happens, then this happens. And one is if the Amazon Alexa air quality monitor detects VOCs, which is from the refinery, volatile organic compounds, it will turn off my window fan or window fans. I'm going to expand it to other fans as well. And the other one I set up was for wildfire smoke, which is particulate matter. So if the particulate matter hits twice in one night, each of those things went off and turned off. First, it was the refinery. Then it's the wildfires. This is what I'm dealing with One is causing climate change, and the other is a result of what these assholes over at the refinery are doing, and everyone like them, and people pretending that it's not an emergency, it's not something that we can solve. Electric cars are scary, they don't work. Well, BS, you and I know that, and it's not true at all. I did some renovating on my tub in my shower because my tiles are leaking and I can't replace everything right now. I'm putting it off for physical reasons, and when I'm feeling well enough, I'm going to redo that, but it's leaking, and so I got some of that as seen on TV Flex Seal.
Okay.
The internet said do it. Actually, the AI of the internet said to do that.
Yeah.
So I did it, and oh boy, the VOC account in my bedroom, two rooms away, 100. Does top of the scale.
Wow.
And that was with a fan blowing in air from outdoors. So yeah, I'm becoming more cognizant of cooking and little things around the house. They give, scented candles. We don't use them, but we have one, and they give off VOCs as well, which is not good on a regular basis. But last week I discussed my son in the West Coast who's doing an internship trying to buy a new car, or recently. And Brian, he hit a Mercedes in his parking space. Well, he tried to buff it out on both cars. My horrible fatherly advice was buff it out on the other car because you're in a parking garage of a condo at night and just see if it can disappear. And it did.
Yeah.
But he still left a note because I raised him to be a good boy. So the guy got back to him and said, "Oh, thanks for letting me know, and I'll talk to my mechanic about the sensors." But he didn't think he was actually going to talk to his mechanic. He did, and it was like $1,150, please.
What?
Yeah, for something that completely buffed out. And the Mercedes is hail damage, so it's not a mint-condition car. It's got damage around it.
Well, but if you can't see it, then what's the problem?
Well, it's there. I guess if you unbuff it, it'll show up again. I don't know.
Okay.
But he went back to the dealership with the car, that one didn't buff out. There were still some scratches. It almost looked like a bear took a slight swipe to it.
Right.
There was several scratches in a row that wouldn't buff out. And they said, "Oh, don't worry about it. And you come look at this car. Which car are you buying today?" Because he kept a car for 24 hours and another car for 24 hours. Yeah. And then he gets close to buying it, and he realizes the insurance is $650 a month.
What?
Because he's a kid. He's a young driver without a driving record. Now, he has a driving record from a different province, and if that got applied, he thought maybe he could get it down to $350. But even so, that is like almost twice of what his lease payments would be, because he was putting down a hefty down payment for a 3-year term. And so, then when they realized he was walking away, they said, "Oh, the scratch, that'll be $130, please." Or $330. It was $300, which was the deductible for their insurance. And just garbage human beings that, I might just go buy a Tesla just to not give the car dealerships any money in the future because they're just awful. Yeah, it's bad. So he went, and I said, get on the car share. There's a car share out there. However, where he lives in Surrey, which is the city sort of next to Vancouver, they don't have a full-on car share where you could just go to the side of the road and pick one up, look on your app and pick one up like you can with a scooter or something. You have to go to a centralized location. So, I asked him what he thought about it, but he said, he did get approved in a couple of hours. His coworker said, "Oh, it could be 30 days, 15 days to 30 days, but it wasn't." Yeah, so he said that he spoke to an engineer in training at his engineering company who says that he bought a car this month, his first car, but he said he used car share for errands once every other week because that's all he needed it for. And that's kind of, if you have good public transportation and you live in a metropolitan area, that's true for a lot of people. Now he pays a fortune for insurance because their insurance premiums in BC are different than what they are here in the province of Saskatchewan, Canada, where we have really notoriously low insurance premiums for our cars, like $100 a month for a lot of people, right?
Yeah, I guess. I have heard, it depends on the circumstances. I have heard that private insurance in other provinces can sometimes be cheaper. But yes, we have a government insurance for cars here in our province. So it tends to be at least fairly consistent, and you don't get penalized if you're a young driver.
Right. Okay, that is true, right? And I know it's in Ontario when I was there for a short time. If you had a
Yeah.
red car, it was more expensive because people crashed red cars more. They drove them faster.
Yeah.
I was really taken by that. Somebody was telling me that. So these are mostly Priuses or Prii hybrid cars, and you see them everywhere in Vancouver area. They have ski racks and bike racks, and those are very helpful for people if you want to go skiing. But he has to go to a centralized location, so he rented it for like, I don't know, a couple of hours, and it was $50, which was pretty pricey. But he can't just go down the street, pick up a car, go to the grocery store, log out of the car, leave the car there, shop for an hour or two, which he seems to like to do, and then come back. So he had to rent it the whole time. So now he's got to speed up his grocery trips if he does it that way. My partner gets grocery delivery. She got an offer on her app for cheap membership for a year for grocery delivery. So that we're doing that. Yeah, I know you're doing that. And he could do that too. And we might even be able to do it with our own app. I don't know. But it seems, he's still learning what things he wants to buy because it's his first time out on his own. So that's a thing too, that he kind of wants to be there. His thoughts are that it's very annoying how inconvenient they are when you live in Surrey outside of the home zone. But he thought it would be great. He says they're good because they can help improve people's lives without owning vehicles. And they'll probably be all electric soon. I know they have some electric cars out there. Yeah. And I don't know how you get them, but it's probably in the home zone.
Yeah, I think I was one of the first car share people in Canada because we did it in Toronto about 25 years ago. And it was, at the time, I think the first car share thing in Canada was called Auto Share. And we signed up right away because we didn't have a car there at the time. And yeah, it's not the cheapest. And it just depends. Like if you want to go to, IKEA and buy a couple of things, then that's what you really need a car for. That's very hard to do that on public transit. So, you just kind of, but yeah, things like grocery delivery, really everybody should do that. There's, a lot of groceries. I mean, it's sometimes nice to go and pick your own produce and stuff like that. Right. So we still go in person to the grocery store, but getting a huge load delivered, it's amazing.
Yeah, and there's places where he works downtown where he can stop in and get like a liter of milk instead of a giant jug. He drinks a lot of milk. And just pick out some produce on a regular basis and not carry a lot if you make smaller trips, which is something that I did. Toronto, I used to use my bike in Toronto with saddlebags and go a long way to get to the cheaper grocery store sometimes. But I'm not a young man anymore. He is. He should be doing that. Yeah, so I think it's pretty good for him if he wants to go on an adventure on a weekend, like explore somewhere. He can take it for the whole day, and I think it works out to less than $130, but he doesn't have to pay for gas. You don't have to refill it.
Right.
And I noticed with their electric cars that if you bring it back with less than 30% and you plug it in somewhere, they'll give you a $10 credit.
Right.
Which is, pretty significant. Brian, I bought a underwater robot for my swimming pool, which I'm not using because of the damn weather. This is the worst summer in the history of my life, my long storied life, the worst summer ever. And I know even people in Ontario are saying that too. Like in Eastern Canada, it's been cool, but also smoky. I mean, we had two horrible summers in the early 90s, which were cool and often cloudy, but at least you could open your damn window. Now you can't do that. You can't even go outside and mow the lawn without, inhaling cigarette smoke of the equivalent. So I bought this. I was always amazed that these battery things go underwater.
Yeah.
But that's where we are now. It goes for 90 minutes. And it was refurbished on Temu. It's from a major, pool robot company. So they had a Canadian distribution center. Works great. And does what I would have to do for a long time before I joined the pool. So now I don't have to do that. And pretty happy.
And it goes along the bottom of the pool, right? Is that what it is?
Along the bottom, because debris and bugs and if you clean your pool, all the cloudiness in the water will settle to deposits at the bottom of the pool if you put in a clarifier type chemical. And just from rain, like the rain and the smoke and the dust comes into the pool, clouds the water, and sometimes settles to the bottom. And in the worst case scenario, of course, there's leaves and pine needles and things like that. But it's something that I could also do in the spring and help me get the pool up and running faster. But I just think it's cool that the battery electric devices are at that stage. Yeah. And our friend Nicole has one in Toronto, too. She just bought a home with a pool, living the suburban lifestyle, and she has one of those, too. Richard on Patreon, our Patreon page, was talking about my reference last week to all the different, when you're trying to charge a car that's not a Tesla, and you have all these different companies, so you need all these different apps to make sure that you're ready to go. Should you require this charger in this town, then the other one's busy or broken or something, you want to be ready to go. And I was lamenting about how all the different apps you have to buy and put, or not buy, but get and put your credit card on them and have them ready to go. He suggested Charge Hub, which is an app that charges a lot of, it's basically pays for a lot of different charging networks. Not Flow, which is my favorite network, but I did have an account for Charge Hub because I went and looked it up and I already had an account, but I sort of equated it to PlugShare, which is a place where you find chargers more than anything, although you can pay for them now. But I noticed that there's a lot more than there was that you can pay for. So it is a thing if you get an account with Charge Hub, you can charge with a lot of different chargers and only use that one app. So maybe it reduces your apps for now, but we see improvement as they come up with a sort of a universal way of paying in North America, at least. If you live in Europe and you have a solution, I'd be interested to know what you guys are doing out there.
All right, this is an update to something we've talked about before. The world's largest hydroelectric dam has now started construction. So this is in China, and they're known for already having a massive hydroelectric dam, the Three Gorges Dam. So guess how much bigger this one is going to be than the Three Gorges Dam?
50% bigger.
It's about 3 times more.
Oh, my God.
3.5 times bigger.
Basically, all the water of the world is being harnessed.
Yes. Now, the difference is that this is a cascading hydroelectric dam, so it's not all in one place. So they have this river that goes downhill for quite a long distance. And as we've mentioned before on the show, one of the cool things about hydroelectric power is you can actually harvest that same water for energy more than once if it's continuing to flow downhill. So it's actually going to be in 5 sections. So each of those sections will be smaller than the Three Gorges Dam. One thing we talked about with the Three Gorges Dam is like it was so large that like seismic meters could detect like a slight wobble in the rotation of the earth when they finally filled the Three Gorges Dam. Which,
didn't it shorten our days by like a quarter of a second or something? It was crazy.
Something like that, yeah.
The Earth, orbit was slightly altered?
Yeah, exactly. So I think because this one's in 5 sections, we probably won't see that same effect again. Presumably they'll fill all 5 of them at a different time. Or if they filled them all at once, they would probably fill kind of slowly. But yeah, the Three Gorges Dam is 88 megawatts, and this is 300 million megawatts annual megawatt hours. So this will do 300 million megawatt hours per year. So yeah, roughly, 3.5 times as much as the Three Gorges Dam. So it's controversial, of course, because India and Bangladesh are downstream from this water, and they're concerned that, the Chinese could just shut off their water at some point. And China keeps saying, oh, no, it'll be fine. Don't worry about it. And of course, there's always environmental costs to big hydroelectric dam projects like this. So of course, environmentalists are very concerned. So, lots of opposition, but construction has started. So this would appear to be going ahead.
Well, the Chinese government does what the Chinese government wants to do and just goes ahead and does it. There's occasions where that's a good thing, maybe when it comes to clean energy. But this is, human lives get overturned when dams get built as well, not just environmental.
Yes. No, and there's been environmental protesters at other dam projects in China, and they've been very harshly dealt with and arrested and imprisoned. And so, that's never a good thing. But here we go. It's underway.
Well, Vietnam is setting bans on gasoline motorcycles next year, and they will soon be followed by cars. This is in the central area of Hanoi. You know that Vietnam is largely a 2-wheel transportation place. You can see videos on YouTube of just a sea of scooters and motorcycles coming at you. It's like a waterfall. They're just everyone's on them. I don't know how many people die every year on those things in such crowded places without helmets often, and sometimes crowded bikes where the whole family's on there. Talk about getting groceries with the family. That's a different situation. But starting next summer, the major downtown areas of Hanoi will ban all gasoline-powered motorcycles as part of a program to cut down emissions. Now, we know that these scooters and motorcycles are not just gas-powered, but they often have no emissions controls.
Yeah.
So they're noisy and smelly and produce bad air quality in centralized locations when you get all the people located in the middle there. The plan will go into effect July 1st, 2026, and then will expand the following year to cover more districts outside of downtown, kind of like London. London started in the middle and they started expanding, and eventually include gasoline-powered cars as well, which other cities around the world are also banning gasoline-powered cars, or they're putting a fee on using them in the central business districts of cities that get congestion, a congestion fee. So other major cities like Ho Chi Minh City and Da Nang are also studying similar measures. And Vietnam plans to eliminate gas-powered two-wheelers entirely by 2045, a bold national goal in a country where motorcycles are central to daily life. So you have to be able to get the confidence in these electric bikes. With an estimated 72 million bikes on the road, the move represents a dramatic transformation in transportation. These central areas are known for dense traffic, high pollution, and a thriving tourism industry. I think you get a cab on a motorbike in a lot of places in third world countries in Africa as well. Officials hope that banning gasoline-powered motorbikes will reduce noise, smog, and carbon emissions, while nudging residents towards cleaner electric alternatives. Electric motorcycles and scooters are already a fast-growing market in Vietnam, led by homegrown companies like VinFast, which make a car, electric car, and Selex Motors. VinFast have sold over 160,000 electric scooters as of early 2024, and Selex is rapidly expanding its battery swap station network. Like Gogoro, we've talked about the Gogoro battery swap network for scooters in some countries, and I think Gogoro's in Vietnam as well. So that's a place where you don't have to worry about range. You just stop at a 7-Eleven or something to swap out the battery. It takes 30 seconds and you're on your way again without any transaction other than, just putting the battery back into the machine, the dispensing machine. So far, electric two-wheelers only account for around 5% of the total market, which is actually not bad. I mean, considering that Vietnam is not necessarily going to be the first market to do this. There's speculation that India could be next. So we're looking forward to seeing if India, because of their air quality, not all of it is car pollution there, but it would certainly help. I mean, God knows. We've probably got the worst air quality in the world in our city, a major city right now, today at 245. It'll be up there. Yeah. Because most settle around 100. The worst cities are just over 100. Yeah. We're at 245 just for today and tomorrow night, as far as the forecast goes.
No, and certainly India has a lot of two-wheel vehicles as well. So the head of the United Nations says that fossil fuels are running out of road. So the world is on the brink of a breakthrough in the climate fight, and fossil fuels are running out of road, the UN chief said on Tuesday, as he urged countries to funnel support into low-carbon energy. More than 9 in 10 renewable power projects globally are now cheaper than fossil fuel alternatives. Solar power is about 41% cheaper than the lowest cost fossil fuel alternative, and onshore wind generation is less than half the price of fossil fuels, and this is according to a report from the International Renewable Energy Agency. Costs have been driven down by the increasingly widespread use of these technologies, a huge focus on low-carbon manufacturing in China, a burgeoning investment in the sector that we've talked about before. It reached $2 trillion last year, which was $800 billion more than was invested into fossil fuels, and that was an increase of about 70% in the last decade. So António Guterres, the UN Secretary General, said, "We are on the cusp of a new era. Fossil fuels are running out of road. The sun is rising on a clean energy age," and that report from The Guardian.
We live in a place that we think is maybe a little bit difficult to decarbonize because solar seasonality. We have plenty of solar right this time of year usually because we have long days in the summer, but shorter days in the winter. I think it's like, what are the days in the winter? 7.5 hours or something?
Seems
8 hours?
shorter, but yeah.
Yes, it goes from like 9 a.m. to 5, right, roughly. So it's around 8 hours. And that's becomes a bit of a problem. I mean, we still produce solar, but I'm starting to think days like today, like my panels are producing a third of what they should. It's actually a sunny day out there. Yeah. But you wouldn't know it. It looks overcast, and my panels are, I'm wondering if climate change is going to kibosh, our ability to decarbonize in places like where we live, because solar is going to be an important part of that. It's part of a mix of wind and solar and batteries and whatever else we can conjure up. We still haven't got not hydro, but geothermal online yet, which we've been working on for years. Still haven't heard from them. They're still working on it, but it's not online yet. Yeah, I don't know.
And that statistic, solar power 41% cheaper than the lowest cost fossil fuel alternative. Now, that doesn't include batteries, to be fair. So to make it truly comparable to a 24-hour power source, you should really add batteries. So, it's not perfect, but when it's 41% cheaper, it's okay if it's not perfect. And, then you can add batteries and make it perfect. And even if it's not the cheapest thing, it's obviously what we should be doing. And it's certainly the simplest and quickest way to build our way out of a dirty energy age.
So 9 out of 10 places in the world, it is cheaper, though. Yeah. And I just, because we're such a small jurisdiction here, we don't have a lot of people paying attention to it. But I just wonder, is it cheaper here? Is it not cheaper here? Is it about the same? I don't know.
Yeah.
And if it is more expensive here, then, the trend is still for renewables to become cheaper as time goes on. If you build a nuclear reactor like they're talking about, well, by then, the economics might be a different story.
Yeah, the seasonality is definitely an issue. We're going to talk about my cottage project a bit later on, but I am always kind of wondering, should I try and do the cottage off grid, so get enough batteries that we can just disconnect from the grid entirely? I don't really want to do that because I like the idea of being attached to the grid. We should all be sharing these resources, but it would be tricky to know if I could do that in the winter with the, reduced solar that we have.
I don't think you can without a lot of solar panels, because there are people who do that, who are survivalist types who want, like I talked to my solar installer about it, and they don't give too many details, but there are people out there in the countryside who are expecting the world to end, and they want to be fully sustainable on their land, and it takes a lot of panels to do that. Here, because of the seasonality, because you have to plan for the worst case scenario, which is December. It's cloudy, short days, and so forth.
Okay, so we talk about this every once in a while, and you mentioned it like last week or the week before, how there's electric stand-up scooters that can go, I can't remember what you said, but 50 miles an hour or
highway
something
speed.
like that.
I said
highway speeds. Okay, so this is from Electric. There's a British electric scooter maker called Bo, and they've got a new stand-up electric scooter called the Turbo. And this thing can do 100 miles an hour or 160 kilometers an hour.
Those suicide pods from science fiction, and I don't know, what was it? Futurama, the cartoon on national television.
Yeah.
There was a suicide pod in that. I think in the pilot episode, he was going to kill himself, and then a robot came, the drunk robot. And I digress. This is basically that, though. It's a suicide pod. It's 160 kilometers an hour on a stand-up scooter. I don't care what you're wearing. You could wear a suit of knight armor and still, you're screwed. You're screwed. You should not be doing this. It should not be allowed.
Yeah. So these do cost $29,500. The first series of limited edition, these are $30,000. So, this is not a cheap thing. This is not a mass market product. There's not going to be that many people that actually get one of these. But still, it's very interesting. But it does speak to the power of electric technology. Like, this is what we can do when we switch to batteries and electric powertrains.
Even a full-fledged motorcycle, I would feel nervous about that. Like you get used to it and you become, unafraid. But no, a stand-up scooter, no. Well,
and even gas-powered motorcycles have very scary acceleration that you have to be very careful of. So, when you go electric, it's a suicide pod, basically.
But you're putting your feet together. Your balance is tenuous at best. You're not on a bike where you can balance distribute your body weight. Oh God. And the braking, there's not going to be braking. You think there's bad braking on a motorcycle? Woo! Unless you got a parachute, which I would say would be a good option for one of these.
Yeah, that would be a great way to slow down. They have those, in drag cars, they have parachutes sometimes.
$30,000. We will take your $30,000 and you can go off into your next life as a smear on a highway. And yeah, I don't know. Let's get to the mailbag.
All right. So you mentioned we mentioned this in passing last week or the week before, that someone sent us a letter about my cottage build and the heating system. So I found the letter. I thought I would read the whole thing. Hey, Brian, I just listened to this week's episode. I'm a contractor northwest of Edmonton, and I've built a few houses for my family and will sell and build again. For your heat system, I would strongly suggest hydronic in-floor heat. It's about 40% more efficient than forced air, as it heats via infrared. The last house I built, I put in 1.5 inches of concrete on the main floor to encase the PEX lines. I did end up finishing with hardwood. The next house I built will do the same system but polish the concrete, and it works about to be the same amount as per square foot as engineered hardwood. Then if you still want to have fresh air circulation, you can look at a standalone HRV. Just food for thought. That letter is from Tim. So thanks very much, Tim. And Tim, I'm happy to report this is pretty much exactly what we are going to do with the cottage build.
Really?
Yes, we've figured out at least this much, that we're going to do the in-floor heating and we're going to encase it in concrete, and then we're going to polish the concrete, and that's going to be the finished flooring for the cottage.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. Even in, a house like this, that would have been a good idea for passive solar, just to store the energy.
Yeah.
And that will, it'll store the coolness from the night. If you have the windows open and it gets sunny and hot in the day, it'll mitigate your energy use because it'll store some of that and sort of balance everything out.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's a great idea.
Yes, and we will have south-facing windows. So yes, in the winter, we can leave the blinds open, and that should, heat up.
You're very lucky, that cottage is lakefront. It's just a shack right now from the 50s. It was a very modest place. But the property, it faces the lake, so you have that opportunity to put the big windows with the view of the lake and harness the sun and the energy from it.
Yep, solar panels as well as the passive solar. It doesn't directly face south. It's a little bit off of direct south. So
close enough.
We do have that to deal with, but absolutely it's close enough. And then, yes, I believe we will put in a heat recovery ventilator to get fresh air, because I think you still want fresh air, and we're going to need it because, the stupid forest fire smoke that we keep talking about it. And I think we're going to have to get one with a HEPA filter. Like, I have an HRV here in my house that I'm in right now, but it doesn't have a HEPA filter on it. So, it's not going to screen out all the smoke.
So you're bringing in poisonous air right now.
Yes, but I turn it off. I turn off the heat recovery ventilator when the smoke is bad. And just, that's about all you can do when, the indoor air seems fine, but I don't have a monitor like you. So I'm not totally sure.
Well, you should get one. Get one from IKEA. Next time you're in IKEA, score one and just pick one up and install it just for curiosity. Maybe Apple will come out of it. You're in the Apple ecosystem. Maybe Apple will come out. They should, because air quality is a thing now.
But the thing I'm still not sure of is how do we heat that flooring? So, of course, I want to do it with a heat pump because, we're not going to have any natural gas.
So liquid goes through the flooring and radiates upwards.
Yeah.
So you use less heat because, the heat usually, you feel colder down below and the heat goes up. But if it starts down there and radiates evenly up, that's an efficient way of doing things. But there's different ways of heating that fluid that goes through those pipes in the floor.
Yeah.
Gas boilers is a common one. And but there's now in Europe, they're switching those over to heat pump boilers.
Yeah. So this is a thing where I think this is a already solved problem in Europe. But here in Canada, especially in Western Canada, there's probably not that many people doing it where we are. So I think I'm going to struggle a little bit to find the correct kind of heat pump to do this. So if anyone has any suggestions for me, let us know.
I was thinking this morning that, one day we're going to need oxygen generators in our homes because it's getting so bad. Maybe you should talk to your architect about that.
That's just depressing.
Just to be preemptive. It's like living on Mars, except, worse air.
Can you get it out of water? Like, you can get hydrogen out of H2O.
Sure.
So you split it up, you get the hydrogen, lake. And then you get the oxygen.
Sure. Maybe it should be a hydrogen-powered, in-floor heating.
Sure.
That's certainly not an option.
Yeah.
if you were looking for your letter, we did a bunch of our letters in our last Patreon bonus episode on our Patreon page. It's there for free. The first 10 minutes, you can listen to our letters there. You can contact us at the Clean Energy Show, cleanenergyshow@gmail.com, because we love to hear from our listeners. We love it, love it, love it. Please contact us. And you can also leave us a voicemail online at speakpipe.com/cleanenergyshow. You can support us with a PayPal donation. Somebody just did a one-time donation the other day. It was very nice of them. Some people do monthly donations of a little bit because they don't want to use Patreon. You can use PayPal. That's in our show notes, and we thank you so much for doing that. Join the conversation on our Patreon page because that is our social media page now. When I go on vacation on my electric road trip, I will be posting video updates from there. If you're interested in what it's like, if you're EV curious and you're kind of wondering what it's like to go on a road trip, I'll be posting little unedited videos up there from my phone. That is in the first couple of weeks of August and late July. If you join our Patreon as a paying member, you get access to extra stuff, including our exclusive Patreon episodes. And you can now support us for as little as $1 US per month. Some of our perks are ad-free episodes, exclusive access to the Discord server, which is starting to get some activity, and discounts at our merch store, early access to our episodes before the public, behind-the-scenes material that isn't always public, and thank you credits on our video podcast, which is returning in the fall, and shout-outs monthly on our audio podcast if you're in the Clean Club or higher. And thank you to everyone who supports the show. We're very overwhelmed by your support. And coming up next, the lightning round. It's time for the lightning round.
The Lightning Round is a fast-paced look at the latest headlines in climate, clean energy, and transportation.
China has switched on its largest standalone battery storage project with a capacity of 2 gigawatt hours. That is 2 nuclear reactors for an hour, all in a battery. People say it can't be done.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty significant. The 4-hour storage system is described as the largest lithium iron phosphate energy storage project in the country. So that is the cheaper of the lithium batteries, right? The lithium iron phosphate.
Yeah, and it's becoming much more common. People were using, nickel and cobalt, but those things are expensive and hard to get. So these new battery chemistries have made a huge difference in driving the cost down and making everything easier.
So this battery chemistry is less energy dense. So it's not great if you want a long-range Tesla that goes 700 kilometers or 500 miles because it doesn't all fit in there. But if you want a lower-range car, it's great and cheaper. And if you want battery storage, it don't matter. Size doesn't matter. Volume doesn't matter as much because you can do a lot. You could put them in a skyscraper. I see your cat in the background. Calypso, the clean energy cat. 21% less fossil fuel gas has been used in California so far this year than compared to last year. 21% less fossil fuel gas than the grid in California. That's 40% less than 2023 as they continue to decarbonize with renewables and battery energy storage, which keeps the solar when the sun goes down, extends it into the evening when everyone's using electricity in the evening and watching Matlock. I assume people watch Matlock?
Oh, sure.
Or the new Matlock?
The new one with, what's her name from Misery.
Yeah, she's good. She looks good in the commercials. I don't watch it. I'm not that old. 2025 is quickly becoming the year of the flood in the United States. So far, 3,358 flash flood warnings have been issued. That's over 250 more than the next closest year to date already. The European Commission is working on a plan to prohibit car rental firms and large corporations from buying non-electric vehicles. I think we mentioned this before. This work is continuing, and this is by 2030, their fleets will have to buy electric vehicles. According to German newspaper Bild, this is a clean energy show, fast facts. EVs only account for 3.8% of the vehicles on the road in the UK, but do 5.3% of the miles.
Yes.
So they're doing a lot.
Because when you have an EV, you tend to drive it more, especially if you have, say, one EV, one gas car. Which one are you going to drive? Of course, you'll drive the EV to save on the gas.
People love their EVs. They don't like going back to the gas car in the driveway, or they make their spouse drive it. I hear lots of stories like that online. The Financial Times is reporting that the UK government is about to admit that their Sizewell C nuclear plant, this new nuclear plant they're building, price tag has soared to £38 billion. No sign of cost savings from the lesson learned from building Hinkley Point C, which they hoped that there would be, people trained and cost savings learned.
Yeah, we gave an update on these budget numbers recently, a few weeks ago, and those numbers, it sounds like, are now outdated and the costs are much higher.
Which is too bad, but that's what's happening. This is from Ember Energy. The 2024 marked China's hottest year on record, increasing cooling needs and straining the power system. From July to September 2024, space cooling made up 70% of the rise in China's residential power use. So air conditioners, because the climate is getting hotter and also more people in the middle class don't want to be sweaty.
Yeah.
So they're making efficient cooling increasingly crucial. They're coming up with ways, China's kind of now leading the world in things, and they're starting to slowly take over advancement, even in drugs and things like medicine now too, even. Stellantis will end work on hydrogen cars and focus on EVs. Brian, I could have saved them hundreds of millions of dollars years ago if they started listening to this podcast and just asked me. Yeah. My fee, maybe $1 million if I'm in a good mood.
That's cheap.
I've done it for $1 million.
Totally cheap.
For that advice. What a waste of time. And it was so obvious to us.
Yeah.
Electric cars are what they are back 5 years ago, but we knew they weren't going to be that 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And they're not. And they're not going to be that 5 years from now, what they are now. It's obvious. Things are not stagnant. Extreme heat in Spain contributed to more than 1,100 deaths between May and July of this year. 1,100 deaths. A tenfold increase from last summer, the Spanish government said. Bloomberg has that story. That would be a good alternative to Bloomberg, is Bloomberg. Lab-grown salmon is set to hit the menu at Hot Seattle Oyster Bar. We have been a while since we talked about lab-grown meats and meat alternatives and more sustainable way of doing things. The Walrus and Carpenter will serve lab-grown meat salmon from startup Wild Type, which takes cells from Pacific salmon, grows them in tanks with added nutrients. Renee Erickson, the chef behind the restaurant, says her first reaction to lab-raised fish is that it is weird, but she is planning to serve it in a, how do you pronounce that? Leche de
tigre? Yeah.
Leche de tigre? What is that? I don't know what that is.
I don't know what that is.
I don't eat in fancy restaurants. I don't eat lab-grown meat. It's just for the fancy. It's very expensive. There has a lower carbon impact, this stuff, than farm-raised and wild-caught fish, according to the company's analysis, but it remains expensive. $190 per pound.
Wow, that is expensive.
Bing! You've priced me out of that. Priced me out of that. I'm not on board. Farm-raised salmon is a multi-billion-dollar business, but it takes a heavy toll on the environment. Salmon are fed fish meal, which leads to overfishing of smaller species. Fish can also escape farms, spreading diseases to wild populations. Well, here's one for you, Brian. The Tampa Bay Times is reporting that Florida airports are scrambling after the state's attorney general issued a letter warning them to comply with a state law that bans weather modification.
Yeah.
Florida, you're at it again, a thing which does not exist. We are not modifying the weather with planes and contrails. It's the stuff of conspiracy theories.
Okay, but we do have, we talked about cloud seeding in Alberta, where they're trying to reduce the size of the hail. So some types of interventions are seemingly possible.
Yes, and that's approved. That's okay there.
Right.
If you want to and they've been doing that, and they haven't banned that. They've done it with hurricanes, too. I can't remember why, if it was rain, floods, or hail that they were trying to mitigate with cloud seeding last hurricane season. I noticed that was a thing. But they're talking about the stuff that, just a conspiracy, the stuff that does not exist. And the airports are trying to comply. Is like, how do you comply with something that doesn't exist? And finally this week, statistics compiled by German Automotive Association and breakdown providers, ADAC, shows that EVs are more reliable than their fossil fuel counterparts. We've seen studies like this before. This particular organization has put them out different years, but as EVs develop, things start to change, and there's a lot more EVs on the road now, better statistics. The chance of breaking down in an EV is less than half of that of an ICE vehicle, internal combustion engine, fossil fuel vehicle. According to these fresh figures, the statistics available are revealing that the most common reason for an EV breakdown is likely not what you would probably assume if you're listening to this. I bet Brian would assume that what it is ADAC notes that with modern EVs being in relative infancy compared to combustion vehicles, it expects this EV breakdown rate to drop even further in years to come. ADAC's data found that the 12-volt battery was responsible for a significant 50% of all EV-based breakdowns. That's the little battery that you have in your gas car that starts it, cranks the engine.
Yeah. A legacy thing really left over from gas cars. So the kind of the one thing that we kept from gasoline cars is now causing 50% of the breakdowns in EVs.
It's actually the main reason that gas cars break down too, is that stupid battery, because it gets used and then eventually, you don't know when it's bad. It doesn't tell you. Cars should tell you, the voltage in your battery is dropping. Maybe it's time to replace it soon. And then, a cold day comes and your car doesn't start, and then boom, it might have been crappy all summer. You didn't know it. Yeah, that's responsible for 45% of breakdowns in ICE vehicles. So broken down into specific EV models, the Tesla Model 3 came back as the most reliable electric car, which surprised me because I hear, you had to have your heater replaced, which is a major thing. It was under warranty, but it's not what I hear a lot of people with Tesla problems. And I think that's not Toyota level. I want it to be Toyota level, Honda level of reliability, at least for the first 5 years. But it had a breakdown rate of 0.5 per thousand vehicles. Yeah. On the other end of the spectrum was the Hyundai Ioniq 5 with a breakdown rate of 22 per thousand. And I bet, they've had those problems with the 12-volt battery, and they've done a recall on the EV6 too. Like my daughter's teacher at high school was having a problem with his new car. It was that, and we had a listener who had that problem as well. So
it's early days for electric vehicles, so hopefully this is the worst it will ever be in terms of these breakdown statistics.
And ironically, it's not the battery that powers the vehicle that everyone talks about failing. Yeah. It's the little battery. And it seems like a problem that can be solved, Like it should be able to be solved.
Well, my Tesla Model S has, instead of the lead acid 12 volt, it has a lithium ion 12 volt, which is a lot smaller and presumably.
And a lot more expensive, though.
It'll definitely more expensive, but presumably that will last, hopefully the life of the vehicle.
Yeah, probably at least 10 years, if not, 15, 20. So, I like that idea, but what are they, $500-$600 instead of like $150 or something like that?
That part I don't know. I'm not sure.
It's pretty pricey because, believe me, I thought about it. But maybe those will become cheaper because all lithium batteries are becoming cheaper.
Right. So you could do that in any car or a gas car. Yeah. You could get a lithium ion replacement.
There are people on the Chevy Bolt EV forums that have done that because they got pissed off that their battery failed. And the batteries are very expensive in the Bolt, by the way, because they're lead acid, but they're kind of like lithium. They're trying to act like lithium. So they're very expensive,
right?
But they still only last 5 years or something.
Yeah, they're like a high-end version of that lead acid battery. All right, well, that's our show for this week. Once again, you can contact us cleanenergyshow@gmail.com. On social media, we're Clean Energy Pod. The Patreon page, which we love, and we thank everyone for your support, patreon.com/cleanenergypod. We have a merch store. That's in the show notes. You can buy T-shirts and hats and all kinds of wonderful things. And remember to hit that subscribe or follow button wherever you get your podcasts, and then you will get a new show every week.
And as always, thank you to our Patreon Clean Club executive members, Green Bastard and Brent Routley. And we'll mention everyone else in the first week of the month. Thank you to all who are supporting climate-positive content. We'll see you again in 7 days. And I'm sorry, I lied. We have a normal length podcast this week, but next week, look out. It could be short.
Yeah. All right. See you next week.